Welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, where we attempt to apply logic and reason to religion and politics. I'm here with my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Christy Santiago.
And Mr. Bean. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy humanists, all of you humanists and people who are humanist curious. I'm glad that you're here, even though the topic is not so humanist. I'm ready. As ready as I can ever be for this topic. Mac has done his homework, you guys. So I'm excited to kind of like be his second in command tonight.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes. We know what happens when you leave Mac in charge of anything.
or if Mac's in charge and then Christy smokes, then you know.
All right, I'm going to make sure I pull up the live chat, so give me a second here. Christy, you can talk.
I can talk. I really can. I can say all kinds of things. Like, I like to eat eeples and bananas. I like to oat, ovals and bananas. So my kids watched Barney. It's nothing I can change about the past. And I cannot change that I know every single word to that dumbass song. Although it did help them learn, Barney still is so annoying. He really, really is annoying. He was annoying from the first time I saw him. So I hope that filled in our little spot and you are ready with my Barney nonsense.
Yes, I just couldn't unmute myself. All right, so hi, and welcome everyone to this happy topic of Afghanistan. And Afghan pullout. That's well worded.
Yeah.
I love it.
Pulling out doesn't always work, guys.
This is the this is proof that the pullout method doesn't always work, and it's not always the best method. But you know what? You can do it. You can do it. Anyways.
Can you though? Let's ask all those babies that are pull-out babies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a thought.
I guess they wouldn't be pull-out babies. They'd be the almost pulled-out babies. You know what? Let's not get into the semantics of this. Let's move on to Afghanistan.
I think we are subconsciously trying to push this topic further away. Subconsciously protecting ourselves. No, not us. Not us.
No. Okay, so if you haven't heard, because you live under a rock in Afghanistan, the U.S., as in Joe Biden, has decided to pull all U.S. troops from Afghanistan, and I want to say bring them home. I guess I haven't done enough homework to know, like, are they going to put them somewhere else? But it looks like, and it sounds like, at as far a glance as I have taken, that we're bringing them home. And he sent some extra troops there to get some out. If you have any information on kind of the logic behind that, because I've been trying to make sense of it myself without actually looking up an answer. I'm just like securing the airport the best we can.
Would you like to hear a little like peanut gallery on that one? I feel like it is the proper thing to do because the Taliban said that there would be no violence, because they want to rule the way they want to rule, and they don't want to make martyrs out of any Americans. This is what they're saying. So any foreigners are free to go. However, they could change their mind at any time, or anything could go down and they could blame the Americans. Say a kid did something to an American or a British or a French soldier and they retaliated, and now everything's on lockdown. So if we have more who are there just to see them out safely, I think think about it. If there are 1,500 soldiers who are non-Afghani soldiers in a location who need to get out. That's 1,500. That seems like a lot, but how many Afghanis are there? They could surround that place, and families here, 1,500 families here would have lost someone. So I'm glad that the Taliban, who is the government now there, I'm glad that they agreed that we are allowed to bring in extra for protection if it makes us feel better, even though they promised that they want us out.
Right.
And you already see the fighting within themselves, because they have to have a bad guy, a boogeyman, kind of like us. So
Yeah,
let them fight amongst themselves while we get our people out safely. And we're not just getting us out, we're getting interpreters out. We're getting homes where our soldiers were able to live when they got there. They lived there. They helped out with money, of course, but they were fed their meals there. They learned how to speak their particular tribe's languages. They learned all these amazing things. And on top of all of that, the most beautiful thing, they made friendships, they made families. And so those soldiers who are here or there are fighting to get that family, that particular interpreter out. And we cannot do that without, unfortunately, more force. However, if you guys watch the news today, the Taliban said that no Afghanis will be able to leave at all.
Now, have we been taking Afghanis out?
Yes, we've been rescuing them to covert ways.
So to be clear, are they saying no more?
No more.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And if you are caught, you will be treated, not
like a defector.
I don't even want to know, actually, how you'll be treated.
Nicest way to think of it. Okay, so that said, so far.
Hold on. Do you have a black cat?
Maybe.
Okay, I'm not going crazy. That black cat wants to get those balls and play.
Is it the same black cat?
I hope so. Or there's something in those balls that it wants.
Ah, yes. No, he's just hanging out over there. That's a cat.
I couldn't see him. I just saw like a black thing moving around, and I don't believe in that stuff. So I had to
yeah. That's our black cat, Achilles. Achilles
I love it.
3 legs.
That's actually an amazing name for a 3-legged cat. We had a fish named Sushi, so I get it.
You just don't care about his people's feelings at all, do you?
He was a beta fish there, solo.
Beta fish.
If we have time at the end of this, chatters, remind me to tell you the story of the beta fish getting a bath by my daughter, because it will lighten up the mood after the story we have to go through. And if we don't have time, I'll tell you another time, but it is fantastic and sad at the same time.
Okay, well, we will close out the show with that story.
Okay.
Stick around for the fish bath story. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, because we've been doing this for like 10 minutes now. So I'm going to try to really get us on the railroad track of what should be straight.
Which is ironic. In Afghanistan, they're not allowed railroads.
Oh, didn't know that. I thought you were going to say because you're lesbian. And that's why it's ironic. Because it also, okay, anyways.
It's just a fun fact I learned while reading about the history of Afghanistan. They didn't
know that. Yeah.
They didn't want, because it was like communism, all these groups of, individual, 1,000 here and 1,000 here, and they had their own democracy, and they didn't want them to be able to communicate and overthrow the king. So absolutely no railroads were allowed.
Yes, yeah. That makes sense. I'm going to get back to that too, because I have something to build on there.
Yay. I told you guys, Mac did his homework this week.
A little bit. Actually, I did a lot more last week. This week, I'm not really supposed to wear my earbuds at work anymore, and that's when I listen to all of my news. So yeah.
We need to get Mac one that looks like a hearing aid. There are available. Put that on your wish list on LEAH, and let's get that so you can listen to it at work. At least you're not with somebody now who will not allow you to, be you and have your own passions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that.
If she's listening, I meant every word of what I just said.
All right. Thank you for that. All right. So we're pulling out of Afghanistan. We sent more troops, and that's what I wanted to add on to what Christy said. We sent more troops there. And I want to call out someone specific, Kim Iverson, because she did a lot last week of, are we really leaving? Because we're sending more troops there, and you can always find an excuse to stay. And I think that she's wrong, and I think she's been wrong since the beginning of that. But also, I respect that she's pointing it out, because that's what everyone else has done. That's what the past has shown us. Like, every time like Obama like pulls people out, or they throw more people in. And I understand why she says that, and I'm kind of glad that she does, because we need people who are on the left pointing out this is the bullshit that you do. Yeah.
Yeah, the challenge.
Yeah. And we need, again, we need from all angles. And so I've listened to her a lot on it. And I appreciate her point of view, but I think she's definitely been wrong. And I think the thing that really points out that she's wrong, not that I think she's listening right now, but Biden's still trying to stick to that August 31st, and that's fucking coming up, right? He hasn't pushed back the date. If he pushed back the date and sent more troops, her argument would be more vindicated, right? Whether I think she's wrong or not, that builds to her argument, right? But since the date's staying the same so far, even when Biden said, well, we'll stay and get more people out, they had to like fucking choke it out of him, right? Like, it really wasn't justified to be like, oh, look, he said he'd stay. Yeah, that was like push come to shove. Like, look, you're not just going to leave our Americans there, or our American allies, right? Because that would be a dick move. Are you a dick? Well, right. No, I'm not a dick. See, he said he'd stay.
I know. Just a real quick dig at Kim. Yeah. Crystal Ball left because they wouldn't allow her to talk about topics that need to be talked about in an honest and factual way. And Kim decided to take that spot. That says a lot to me. So there's that. Also, one real quick thing. Who set that time for us to leave?
Now, if I'm right, so don't correct me right away, because I have a justification for why I think this.
Okay.
I think it's Joe Biden, because Donald Trump set like the May date, and they Biden renegotiated the August 31st date. I think that's what I think. So now that I have my whole thought out, please correct me.
You are correct that it did have to be redone. It did have to be redone. And it had to be redone because of like 6 or 7 different things. It wasn't just one thing at all. It was the Taliban taking more places and gaining more power and wanting to negotiate. It was this, it was that. It was, honestly, it would be too much to get into right now. However, It was Trump who said we are getting our troops out of there. And it was his supporters, especially his base and his sycophant news channels, all of them were like, this patriot's gonna bring our people home. If you turn on any of those stations, any of them, Newsmax, all they're doing is dogging Biden for bringing or wanting to, or even talking about bringing them home. It's just, it's too much sometimes.
Right. And then
I think that
and MSNBC are pointing out, well, he did it the wrong way. So we probably need to stay until we can do it.
I haven't watched MSNBC so I don't have an opinion on that. I do have an opinion on when look up real quick, who was the president who got us out of Vietnam?
I want to say Nixon before I look it up.
President who got us out of Vietnam War.
Watch it be Trump again. Hey. Okay. It says Nixon assumed responsibility for the Vietnam as he swore the oath of office on January 20th, 1969. So I was right?
And it was Gerald Ford also. And what is President Gerald Ford known for?
That would have been my second guess, but
he's known for not all the dumb shit he did or how he did things wrong all the time. He's known for getting us out of the Vietnam War. So is the other presidents that are mentioned on this page. They did their part as well. However, Gerald Ford wasn't one of the best presidents, but he's known for getting us out of the Vietnam War. Biden is not one of the best presidents we've ever had. He's not the worst. We know this now. we've been there. But in whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, when it's way, way in the future, he is going to be known as the president who got us out of a 20-year war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is. And that really is good on him. And I don't remember where I was, but that's okay because we're going to take the conversation as it flows here. I want to say that there's definitely criticisms to be had, and this is actually where I disagree with Kyle Kalinske somewhat, which is rare because I agree with him 97.5% of the time, a lot. He gets really annoyed when people say you could have done it in a better way, and I think he agrees, but the way that he vehemently gets upset when people say it makes him sound like he doesn't agree, makes him sound like there isn't room for criticism, which there is, and it bothers me more because I see him as the person who really kind of both sides things the best. Because Kyle Kalinske is where I get my standard of you give credit where credit is due and you shit on who needs to be shit on. Right? And it can be the same person. That's fine. That's good. Like you need to point out the good with the bad and you need to point out the bad with the good. You have to do that.
Yes.
And this is something that I see with the left a lot, is when they coalesce around a topic like the Green New Deal. When that came out, like we all came out and was just like, this is 100% perfect, this is great, this is wonderful. But there were things in there that could use some criticism. Like, all right, this is a little overreaching. This isn't like, we need to be honest that this should be our start for negotiations. And we don't want to move much from it at all. But it is a little bit of a pipe dream, right? The way that it was presented at the start. And when we finally get to pull out of Afghanistan, sure, this is a good hill to die on, but we've seen some.
He said, but
we've seen some horrid images coming out of Afghanistan, right? At the Kabul airport, with people trying to hang on to a plane, and you can't do that, right? And it's not just that. Like we know what's going to happen to a lot of women and children and men, young men, people who are going to be under Talibanistan.
Right.
We know it's not good for them. Is there a better way that we could have done things? Yes. And it really is hard to say. And
I mean, imagine wanting to hold on to the hottest part of an airplane as it took off, knowing you're going to die because you're going to eventually fall off. You'd rather do that than stay.
Yeah.
Just
yeah. So this is, there's two things here. And I need to make a note real quick.
17. I did learn while he's looking something up that Afghanistan before the 1700s and well into the 1700s were tiny republics. Communism. Each republic, each tiny little area voted in who their leader was. They could take them down if they all decided they didn't want to anymore. And they wouldn't actually vote. They would talk about it, whether it took 6 months or 2 years until they came to a consensus. Like, yeah, that was kind of beautiful to me. And so I thought I'd share that little bit of beautifulness from ancient Afghanistan.
I appreciate
Although
it.
they did marry little girls and do a bunch of other bad stuff too. So
that's there's that too.
but so did everyone. Then
you know what? There's still some parts of the world that condone that, right?
Yes, there are.
That's still gross. And anyways, moving on from where we were here.
I want to give props to Arby. He said Gerald Ford immediately. I did know who was responsible, because my dad all the time was like, Gerald Ford was the one who got us out of Vietnam War. I just brain fart. So thank you so much for unfarting my brain, Arby. And Google, of course. Sorry, yes. I'm dropping.
You're fine. So also, Christy doesn't look like she's there. I hope she just froze. And I hope that I'm still on it, which I assume I am. Okay. Could be discussed. Yeah. Yes, Nacho, that would be a great idea if there's any links to some good geography videos discussing the area. I think that would be awesome. Actually, something that I did for tonight on my own independent study here was some geography, and I think it really is interesting to look at the area on a map, because one of the first things that I realized that I didn't realize before is that Afghanistan is big. It's quite large, because I expected it to be around the size of one or two of our states, but it's like closer to like the size of Texas and maybe another state. It is actually quite large, and we've been occupying this entire country along with parts of Iraq and Pakistan. Like we've really covered some ground. So if you guys aren't familiar with the landscape geographically, just please inform yourself, because it really is eye-opening, the area that we've been covering. to fight this war on terror in Afghanistan. So backing up here, we're going to go back to what's been done and what could have been done better and what can be done now. And what could have been done better, we can only assume could have been done better, is there's a lot of people saying that they tried to give Joe Biden and his administration the heads up on what would happen if you leave Afghanistan, right? The Taliban's going to swoop in, all these women and children are going to suffer. Like, only bad things are going to happen. Also, the Afghanistan papers just came out around a year ago or a year and a half ago. I can't remember which December they came out on. I think it was just this past one. And they show that most of the information that we've gotten out of mainstream media has been pushed by the CIA, and it's all pro-war propaganda. If we're pushing back Al Qaeda or the Taliban or ISIS or any of these groups, that means our forces are doing well and we need to keep going. And the narrative is spun on its head if any of these terrorist groups that we're fighting are pushing us back, like getting more kills, winning in any way, then we say, we're not doing enough. We need to send more troops. Whether we're winning or we're losing, we have to stay. And that was revealed in the Afghanistan papers. And that's, one, utter insanity. Two, that's manipulative as shit. This is why it's really important to listen to debates. Like you really need to hear from the other side, and you will see that now if you turn on your televised news and you watch what they have to say about the war in Afghanistan and what's happening and what needs to be done. And then you turn on an anti-war channel. It doesn't have to be a leftist channel. It just has to be an anti-war channel on YouTube or Rockfin, wherever. And you get a different side of things. You get other justifications. And the easiest thing to do is see who is lying by omission, who's leaving out truths to spin a narrative. Either way, you can use specific facts to draw a logical conclusion, right? If you leave out certain things, it can help build your case. And if you add certain things, lie or truth, it can hurt or help your case. A lot of time, patience, horrible images are needed to get the full picture. And one of the things that has been lied about, omission, is most of the generals that have been on Fox, CNN, MSNBC over the past couple of weeks, these generals who go on there to give their take on what Biden has chosen to do. They give their resume saying they're a retired general, they work for the Institute of War, this, that, and the other thing, but they leave out that they also are a spokesperson or they get paid by a weapons manufacturer. Ryan Grimm on The Hills Rising did a wonderful piece on this story. If you haven't seen it, please look it up. I'll try to get the link for it when Christy comes back. I'll try to get the link for it and get that to Nacho so we can link it down below. But it's one of the most telling pieces of this whole story on Afghanistan, that most of what we hear is just someone's trying to push a narrative, right? We want to get out of the war, Christy and I, and a lot of the sources of news that we like that we watch, like Crystal Kahlo, Friends, Sagar, but it's one of so on and so forth. One of those. Most people on the left want to get out, right, Christy?
Right.
Right. And that said, we're going to try to paint you a narrative to convince you that we're right, and that's our job, and that's our motive. We want to convince you that it's bad because we believe it's bad. And the thing that I don't like about those generals who I was mentioning on CNN or Fox or wherever that have a moneyed interest, it doesn't necessarily matter what they think if they're being paid for that opinion to go on because they get paid for war. It doesn't matter if they think they're right. This is their job.
Right.
How many of you on a much lower, less consequential level do your job even though you don't like it, or do something slightly immoral or just like not the best way, but it's your job, and you're there to get your job done, right? You can't trust moneyed interest, and that there's so much moneyed interest in narrative building in war.
Yes, they're not going to, even as you say, everything that you just said is true. And I'd like to add to that they're not going to be critical of any corporation or story or topic that their funders wouldn't approve of. So like DAPL, when DAPL happened, the reason why we found out about it through indie news and then Democracy Now! And then regular news, just like little bits, was because most news channel conglomerates are funded by big oil. So that's just right there,
That's why you
yes, you can talk about a lot of things. They're like CNN can say, we can say whatever we want, except for you can't criticize Raytheon or Boeing or whoever they're, yeah. That's why big money should, I think that PBS back before it took money like Koch brothers money. I see the Heritage Foundation at the end of a documentary on PBS, and I'm like, now I have to doubly fact check everything I just saw. And there's been times where I have, and it's all been correct because it wasn't criticizing anything that they cared about. So, if you're not media literate and you just let me fact check this one thing, well, it was all true. Well, now everything that they say is true. It's not true.
Yeah.
So it's even more important, and even more so in a country that's developing, been trying to develop, like Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so let me take a second here and send this to Natcha.
Hi,
Natcha. Calling you out. This is the link that I'd like in the video description below, if we could please. I'm also going to put it in the live chat. So guys, go ahead and open this in a new tab. If you didn't watch this already, please do. It really, it's not that I don't think you guys believe me, but watching and Ryan Grimm in The Intercept did a great job putting this together. So I just wanted to really point this video out. It's a good one to share with people who disagree with you on war, because people can still disagree with you and see, hopefully, as someone who appreciates epistemology, I want to believe that people can say, hey, I still believe that this is true, but the justifications that someone that I agreed with is using, I agree now are bad ones, right? And then they have to go find better justifications for their beliefs. That's a good thing, right? Because if they believe a lie, then they get closer to the truth. And if they believe something that's true, then they just, again, they find a better way to justify it, right? This is so important, and this is something that I always want to remind people who are involved in the Facebook group of LEAH or who like to watch the show, that you can be right for the wrong reasons.
And wrong for the right reasons.
Exactly. Like you
Loving you is wrong. I don't want to be right. I had to. You opened the French doors on that one.
It was well played. But this is something that actually irks me now, and I don't know if it's ever irked you, or but maybe it will from now on, and you can tell me later, Christy.
I will.
It really irks me, especially during debates on evolution versus creationism. When either side, whether it be someone like Kent Hovind or Arlen Roth, who I adore, well, that's evidence for, or no, it's evidence for, because it could be evidence for either. It's not necessarily evidence for anything. It's just evidence.
Right.
All right. It's just evidence. And I think for epistemological reasons, we, at least in this group, need to start pointing out to a point that it's just evidence. Evidence is just evidence, but we don't know what it's for. And even if we figure out what it's for, maybe it's also for
something. Tell us what's on your radar.
So sorry, guys.
And just appreciating that evidence is just evidence can also point you to more than one truth. If it actually does point to something, if it is evidence for something, it can be evidence for different somethings, and it can also be evidence for the wrong thing. I wanted to point that out, and I think now is a good time to do it. But also, we do still need to move on. So backing up again, because every piece of this story requires a lot of explanation. We could have done better. And I'm going to skip over the other things that I want to do, because what it's going to boil down to is it doesn't help us right now, especially with the intelligence agency that has an interest in staying in Afghanistan for
the alphabet groups. All of the alphabet groups need to stay the fuck out.
Right. And no one can keep that from happening except the taxpayers. And we can't even do it.
The people.
Yeah. So Biden's doing the right thing. It's costing lives, but also staying there costs lives. There's really no way that's good about this. And maybe, ripping the Band-Aid off is the worst way, but also maybe it's the right way. Honestly, the evidence points either way. And this is what we were just talking about.
Right. So, and hold on, guys.
Yeah.
The Taliban has been saying this entire time for 2 decades that they were going to do exactly what they did. They were just biding their time because we have a bigger military and more money.
We're gonna wait.
Yeah, we're just going to wait them out. And that's why they were able to do it so fast, because they've had 2 decades of this plan. And not only did they speak it in all of the languages that are spoken within Afghanistan, they spoke it in languages from other countries too, so other countries could know what they were planning to do. And they did it in English. You can look it up. You can watch it on YouTube of the Taliban telling, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, a year ago, that they were going to take the capitals till they got to Kabul as soon as the Americans leave. They said it in English.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, la, 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 la. Here's the thing. We're humanists. So let's flip it around. Let's be Americans that have been occupied by the British again, by the Soviets, and by the Americans. And so it would be the Afghans, because we're Americans. So it would be the Afghans, and all of those invaded, occupied, and then the Afghans. And then the Afghan army is the biggest in the world's history and is occupying us. It doesn't matter if they're not all bad or not all good. They're occupying our country. We would want them out. And if they wanted to impose their ideology, which I am an adamant, I will stick to this, our ideologies are superior than theirs. Magical thinking and telling women they can't have an education is not, it's abhorrent. So, however, that's none of our business as far as it goes that way. I know that sounds harsh as a humanist, but if it was the other way around, like I just described to you, we had been invaded and occupied, we would want to do it our way. And every time one of these other countries came into America to occupy, they would find the group that is the most hardcore, the most, dictatorial, the most totalitarian, because they're going to be corrupt for one, and they'll do things that Americans can't because of war crimes and stuff. And we will prop them up because they will help the businesses of America. So by doing that, you're creating a more radical country every fucking day. And then these tiny little groups, like I mentioned from the 1700s, they still exist, just in a different form. They have cell phones. News gets around faster. They also get more radicalized because their news isn't, it's not, it can't even be considered news. It's what they're told. It's nothing like we investigated. There's nothing like that. It's tonight, so-and-so in America did this, and this is why we need to, burn American flags. I'm just making something up. They're not always horrible like that. They do have good stories on their news. I actually spent a lot of time watching their news and reading underneath. They have kind of like an American, a westernized version of news, because what else do they have to go by? Tonight on, with a different voice, kind of like, I hate newscasters who do that. Tonight on Channel 8, but they do that because what else do they have to go from? Well, that now is even gone. So when we choose these dictators to come in because they let us have their resources, this is a different kind of war to them. You got to understand, if you do your history, I'm a history buff, when Britain invaded and occupied, they did that not for resources, not for oil. They did that because the Soviets were gaining power, and they didn't want them to take over them and have more power. They only did it for power. So it was a lot different. And then you got to understand that it's not all good. It's gray. That's why Mac, great. The gray wizard is my co-host. It is gray. The Soviets built the biggest tunnel to this day in world history through mountains in Afghanistan that would, without this tunnel, take nearly a week or more, depending on how old you were, if you had to carry kids and stuff, to get to the other side. This way, with a car, you can get there in 8 hours. 8 hours is a marvel. And they have good memories. And when they look at that, they think that that's a friendship we could have had. However, it didn't work out. And it always sucks that the nations who do not have the means to have the technology, not that they couldn't have that technology or that their people aren't smart enough to come up with that. It's that education isn't allowed. You'll get in trouble for Western education. And the education that they do get, they have to work if they want to eat. They can't. There's the first college.
Hold on.
1962 to 1973 were nightclubs and colleges and girls dressed like this, tank tops. There's been good and bad in Afghanistan.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out the other thing, not only education stifle stuff like that, but again, reminder, sanctions and embargoes.
Ooh, don't even get me started on those. Yes.
Just to be safe.
Okay. Like the smallest history on that, because they actually had an election, a democratic election. And during this election, women could go to college, they could get their degrees, they could become doctors, they didn't have to be moms or be bought. There was a lot of changes, and the person they elected, he was investing in college for women, doctorates, everything Western countries had. He wanted airports, he wanted all of these. He didn't understand, he traveled the world, why they didn't have it. They have the resources. So he wanted to, guess what? Nationalize the resources. And that's a commie move, apparently, to the United States of America. And so we had to make sure that he wasn't their president, even though he was elected by the people. Story we've heard time and time again. Time and time again.
Yep. So something else that I wanted to piggyback on that Christy had mentioned is actually two different parts.
All right, I'm ready. Get on.
The Taliban said that they're going to wait us out.
Yep.
Right? And the Taliban has been a factor since before 9/11. All right. This has been a long time since they've been around and since they've wanted control of what they see as their country, Afghanistan.
Is their country.
Right. I mean, what hasn't been for the last 20 years because someone's been putting their butt in their
right.
faces. But we sorry. How do you keep the morale going for 20 years? Now I have the answer for you.
Yeah, let me hear yours and I'll tell you mine.
It's martyrs.
Martyrs?
Yeah, because when we go there and we kill everything in sight because we're out for fucking blood and revenge, it creates martyrs.
But what are we there for blood and revenge for? Isn't he already dead?
9/11.
Yeah, isn't he already dead?
9/11.
Wait,
so I'm quoting Family Guy.
Shouldn't we be in Saudi Arabia?
Right, yeah. Because 17 out of 19 or something like that?
Yes, and they were trained and funded by groups directly, not just directly, through other places, directly from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, I mean, the Taliban did like give them safe haven at one point.
Yes. The
But
Taliban has actually done so many wonderful things that it blew my mind. Now, I am not a Taliban apologist. Do not cut that out because you're a bad person if you do, because
credit
that is
where
not what I
credit's due.
mean. But
Shit on who you have to shit on.
they actually, not when it comes to women per se and education, but for food. Like nobody starves. 30% of what the mosque brings in or what the group brings in, 30% is for the group, that the government, whatever. The rest goes back to the people. That's like nothing like we have here. And now that's not exactly how it is everywhere. And there is lots of corruption. We helped that corruption. To this day in Afghanistan, you can look this up on our government website. There are $11 billion missing, just poof, in cash. Now, you can look up on YouTube, you can type in words like soldier talks about money missing, or soldier had to guard money missing. And they would build these tents and literally bring in dollies with money on them because they were trying to get the insurgents. Now, this is when they were like, when cops have to meet their quota and they're like, I'll pull you over, break your tail light, and you have broken tail light, you have to pay for it. This is the mentality they had. So this warlord who's raising poppies, his, adversary who he's up against, he would come in and say, listen, I have pictures of him. He is doing this, he's doing that, and he is part of ISIS. I know it. So we would go put a bag over his head, take him to a dark site, and that guy who came and told on him would walk away with cash money, dollar bills, they work there too. That's how we have money missing. And we also just had to let 2 guys go from, I forgot the damn name of that awful place on purpose again.
Guantanamo Bay?
Guantanamo Bay, yes. We had to finally let them go because there's no charges. They found out that they were rivals or somebody didn't like them. So they went and told on them for money.
Yep.
So we've created this like tell on each other for money, which is what the Taliban is going to use. If you read what they put out this week on how they will govern, is every single person needs to look and watch every single person. If you see your neighbor's wife doing something, acting something a way that Allah wouldn't want, you need to tell us and we will handle it.
Yeah.
They flogged a girl this week. If she would have been married, they would have stoned her to death. That's not okay. However, I do want to point out the irony that Saudi Arabia is our best friends and they do way worse. So all this clutching of pearls, which we should be, it's awful. But I mean, that's why Afghanistan is such a hard story for me, because
this is really important. So let me finish my thought real quick, and then I'm going to piggyback right where you ended off. Martyrs, and back to the beginning of our conversation where Christy said that they don't want martyrs on our side to make us stable because they know how efficient that is. They understand it because that's how they keep up their morale. They take people who we thought royally and they join the cause. Really easy. Really easy. Now,
think about all the education we brought and a liberation for all the women. So we're held up here. You make a martyr out of someone who was a saint?
Yeah, that's not good. So back to not our business. This is important, and I think we need to hash this out. And I think you're going to agree with me here. But this is hard. This is hard, because you and I are policy junkies,
Yes.
right? So half of our target audience is leftists. The other half of our target audience is atheists and the non-religious community.
We do actually have a couple Christians. They are logical. They love to have conversations about they feel the same way we do about all of these politics. And I am actually talking to them on Twitter and DMs. I won't throw their name out unless they tell me that I can. If they do, I'll give them a shout out next week. We actually do have some believers. So, and even after watching us for a year or two, are still believers. However, one of them has moved to, there's something out there. I believe it. I know it. However, maybe it's not man-made. And that to me is everything.
That's one step closer. Yeah. I mean, look, there's like 30,000 different versions of God in the US. So it's really hard to pick which one's right, if one's right. Anyway,
this is God. This is Moo. Her name is Moo.
Moo?
Moo like a cow.
She's beautiful.
Les Mew.
She's beautiful. She's a pretty kitty.
Okay.
So what we need to hash out though, and Moo can help us out if she wants to. So what we really need to point out, because I really want to get our atheist viewers who don't care as much about policy or don't want that to be their focus. Not that you don't care, right? That's an insensitive way to say it. It is our problem. From an atheist point of view, that's the kind of stuff that we want to combat, right? Mm-hmm. So, for me, I agree with Christy. It's none of our business there, except it absolutely is when we're dealing with morality. And we have to find a way to deal with that problem. And we don't want to use fascistic ways or authoritarian ways to do it, because two wrongs don't make a right. And as Batman likes to say, if you kill a killer, the number of killers in the room doesn't change. Okay? So what we need to try and do is we need to fucking win debates. We need to win by shunning and destroying terrible ideas,
right,
and arguments. And we shouldn't push for war, right?
Well, maybe
that some atheists are not anti-war left-wingers. Maybe they're anti-war right-wingers. Maybe they're not anti-war because they are a little more, what's the word for it? Utilitarian, right? And I get that. You can make an argument for it. You absolutely can. And I may disagree with one. And I also might not. But
yeah, there's some utilitarian arguments that are hard for me to find fault in.
Yeah, it's I think it's very valid. But if you want to claim to be a humanist, it's really hard to tread that line and stay consistent.
I do want to add this though. I would never want to live in a world where every single person agrees with every single thing about every single thing. I just don't. And I love that I have friends from people who really truly believe in God and want to put their hands on me and pray to their magical being in the sky. All the way to people like my youngest daughter. I know she's my daughter, but she is one of my best friends. When Stacy and I came out as like, hey, we don't believe in God. We think we're atheists. She was like, I've been atheist since high school, Mom. Like, I let go of that, you know, and then friends who are doctors, philosophy and professors who believe in a higher power. They do believe in God, like Chris Hedges believes in God. He actually went to seminary school. He just doesn't believe in the magical parts. He doesn't believe in Yahweh per se. He believes that the spirit, how did he explain it?
He's a Jefferson Bible kind of
the
Christian.
spirit, yeah, but less than that even. The when people come together, that spirituality that you feel, that's God to him. And making that so that everyone gets a piece of that is God to him. And that I believe in. That I could say, well, if that's what Christianity is, I'm all about it. But he's not. No. I think maybe you and I should practice on like what we would say if someone says, well, how can you be okay with Biden bringing them home? You know, women are not going to be able to have education now. Well, there's all these horrible, they go on and on and on. Because I think my immediate answer would be like, and I would have to make sure that didn't show. And maybe bring up, well, what about Saudi Arabia? How do you feel about them? Because they're worse and we're not over there helping anybody get out.
Yeah, and I think pointing out the inconsistencies of like
without saying they're wrong.
that across the board, but also taking a page out of Jordan Peterson's book. Like
clean your room.
Clean your own room, right? Like, look at the $2.2 trillion that we have spent on the war in Afghanistan and how that's going to turn to just what, $6.5 trillion?
And the 11 million missing.
Yeah, and the 11 million, which is piddly piss.
I am going to share something in the chat, and I've asked Nacha to share it underneath our video so people who watch this later can get it too without running through the chat to try to find it. He is a guy who is an Afghan American. He was born and raised in Afghanistan, moved here right before the Democratic election. He has been back many times. His book is delightful. I listened to it on audio, and then I listened to this particular thing that I'm going to share. It's not his book, so don't worry. I'm not asking you to do lots of homework. It is a lecture or something like that. He's on stage. He does read from his book. And he is able to even bring humor to something so heart-wrenching, but his humor is tasteful and it's a delight. And he doesn't hold any punches. So I really would like for all of you who care about the stuff that we cover, who care about me and want to know what I'm interested in and what kind of things inspire me, are people like this. And he said, okay, so there are soldiers walking through Afghanistan, and soldiers are talking to a drug lord saying, oof, that is one of the most beautiful poppy fields I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen a poppy field. They're stunning. They're gorgeous. They just are breathtaking. And if you breathe real hard, nothing will happen, like Wizard of Oz. That's not real. However, they're beautiful. But the soldiers are talking about, we're going to have to burn that down. And the drug lord or whatever he is laughs. So I mean, a belly laugh, like he had never heard something so funny in his life. And he said, you won't be doing that. That's the general's field. So right. So but I will share that as soon as Mac talks. I did learn how to share things. Yeah. And then you do that. I just have to go to my history and pull it up because that's what I
that you already shared. Apologize. I have the unreasonable.org link that you Oh, that was for RB. I apologize.
Yes. It's from, I don't know if you guys are subscribed to Free Speech TV. They do a lot from pirate television. I don't know if you guys are familiar with pirate television. You should be. If you're a real leftist, not that they get everything right. And you'll probably find me in some of the chats like, actually, I'm one of those actually people. But Tameen Ansari, or Ansari, probably Ansari. It is called The Untold History of Afghanistan. And I learned that I hit copy link. Look at me, I'm a big girl. And then I go back to where I was, and then I just share it. It's just like the coolest thing ever.
I started listening to one of his speeches a little bit before the show.
Yay, the one I sent you.
I know who you're talking about. Yep.
Yes. Okay, so you probably could have shared it faster than me, but you guys just want to see me. I did it. That's how long it took me, but I did it all by myself. So you guys that are in chat can click on that and save it for later. Listen to it. It is, I'd say a little bit over an hour, maybe around an hour. I honestly couldn't tell you the truth if it's 49 minutes or an hour and 12 minutes, but it's somewhere in there. It's wonderful. It's entertaining. It's educational. There's lots of photographs so you can see. And I learned so much from listening to his book, but then I learned more from listening to him talk about his book. There's something about a human telling you a story, a storyteller. A storyteller in a book is wonderful. I love books, but a storyteller who is just a natural storyteller, and they're little things they didn't add in the book because the editor's like, come on, it's too much. You know, we get it. I like those little extra things. And please.
You can learn a lot.
Please listen to it. Yes. And watch it if you can. I know some people can only listen to things because they're driving, but watch it if you can, because he shows side by side photos of his home, like taking a picture up on a hill of where his home was and taking a picture up on a hill after what had happened, and lots of things. He shows a picture of 1800s, right when cameras first became a thing. 1900s, late 1800s, a photo of an area, and then the photo of that same area in like 2015, and identical. Like the sheep were almost even in the same place, because there's so much of Afghanistan that's just hurting. And I would like to add that one of the things that the Brits did do to Afghanistan to make them submissive to them was not kill them, was to kill all of their animals so that they couldn't make a living or have food, so that they would need to come to them. And I thought, you know what, how cruel. And then I thought, wait, I live in America. We came from there.
Yeah.
We said, hey, hold my beer. we got this. We'll do it for 20 years and achieve nada. There are videos and pictures of times from the 1962 to 1973 that made it out of Afghanistan, of clubs, of discos, of dancing, dressed like us, girls wearing tube tops, bikinis at the beach. Now, you will not find any of this in Afghanistan. It is blasphemy, and it's vulgar. Like, a guy can't look at a girl in a bikini without having to penetrate her, apparently. I mean, I've seen some girls that I've been like, I would totally penetrate you, but I would get your consent first. Right? Am I right? Can I get a round of applause? Yes. Consent is very important. And if she says no, well, then that's that.
Well, that blows.
No
blows, but that's...
Don't ask for that after she said no about the penetration, no. Matter of fact, don't just ask girls for penetration. That's just a lesbian thing. We can get away with it. Right. It's sexist, I know, but it is what it is.
So,
okay, back to the real stuff.
Yeah, only very shortly.
No, you're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you.
As soon as I feel like I'm gonna.
And you haven't even like balled yet. You're
No,
yeah, you've kept it
I have
together.
all week though.
Yeah. So
Especially today.
things that we can do now, because we could have done things better, presumably, given the shit information we get from our intelligence agencies, including maybe the administration. But it doesn't matter because present is here and the future is in a second. So what can we do now? We can do what we should have done in the first place and get as many Afghans out of Afghanistan who want to leave. I don't give a fuck if they helped us. If they don't want to be there, and we don't want, if we don't want Afghanistan people to live in Talibanistan, then we need to get them out, right? Maybe we need to accept them as refugees. Maybe we need to ask them here, hey, where do you want to go? We can help you try to seek asylum anywhere in the world. This shouldn't be a left or right issue, because this is what I said I would bring back in later. This is going to help the right if we bring in people from Afghanistan who are uber conservative. So many people on Fox News are so worried that they just want to bring in a whole bunch of Ilhan Omars. Bitch, she's from Samoa. And she's a leftist. That doesn't mean every brown person is going to be a fucking leftist. That's not how that works. She's an exception, not the rule. And you aren't going to get that with people from Afghanistan. It's going to be a burst of conservative people. And if you're not racist motherfuckers, your agenda is going to be fine. If you are racist motherfuckers, then your agenda won't be as fine because you're just racist. So if you can get past that part, it helps your side more than the left side. It's ridiculous because they are much more for not religious freedoms, but for religious authority. They want more powers to the church. And given it's not the Christian church, it's Islam, so you share the Old Testament, but they want that. They want more conservative views. I don't necessarily know how they want markets, and I'm sure I can only guess. And I can only guess that it's probably about as populous as the US, so they could fall on either side. But there's a lot of shared value between non-extremist Islamists and conservatives. It isn't going to help our polling on the left to take these people in. It's just the right thing to do. It shouldn't be political. It is just the right thing to do. Otherwise, you go bomb their country to help them, which doesn't make sense, does it? If you want to help people, you help them out. Otherwise, we stay there. And there's already the issue of we let the Taliban take over, or we help warlords who have child sex slaves. We already have that issue. But if we let the Taliban take over and do their bullshit stuff in a country that is not our own, then we can try and help as many people out as we possibly can. And we have seemingly run out of time for that. But that's what we should have done, and that's what we should continue to try to do on our way out. And if not, if we're going to stay there, we should do what we should do for Puerto Rico.
Mm.
Make them
Agree.
a state. We should make them a state. If we're going to occupy them, if we're going to fucking stay there, and we want them to be a democracy, just like us, because that's what they deserve, and women's rights and women's rights and women's rights, although we bomb the fuck out of their women and children and bomb their fucking schools, we should make them a state.
Agree.
Ice cream.
Agree. And I think we should allow every country, including Cuba, to do its own thing.
I agree.
To make up its own mind, for its people to choose. In Afghanistan, unfortunately, the people aren't really choosing, although we did help radicalize that nation. And I have predictions, actually. And I would like to know in like 10 years if, I don't know why this helps me remember my predictions, but it does. I do have predictions for Afghanistan and what I feel like I think is going to happen, only because of all the history that I intake. I don't know the future, but I do know our history. So what I feel like is going to happen is wet my whistle. Whistle is wet. All right. Is all of the big bads, the colonizers, the invaders, the occupiers are gone. So let's say 2 years from now, and that's being generous, we're trying to do it right now, but let's just say in 2 years from now, all the big bads are gone to them. Now, they have all of these weapons. We built these amazing bases. One of them hasn't even been used yet, with all of these weapons, and they're going to have full access to it. So my prediction is they're going to fight amongst each other. They're going to fight over the different Islams, the different sects, not sex, sects of religion. They're going to fight over whether, if you have a daughter and you love your daughter and your daughter wants to get an education, you're going to want to get her out of the country, or do you fight for education there? These are all things they need to figure out themselves with help for people who want to get out. Now, I do think there is a place for America and other countries like France who have been there causing this bullshit. That's when someone contacts you and says, I want to get out. That's when we step in and we help them get out. My prediction is once they start fighting each other, there's going to be a lot of us versus them and territory. So there might even be like a East Germany, West Germany, Palestine, apartheid situation going on. There's going to be a lot of bloodshed. Now, this is just my prediction. I really hope it's not true, but history shows that this is what is going to happen if history repeats itself, which it often does, especially after a country's been occupied, not just for the 20 years that we've been there. I mean, this country's been occupied for, and we'll use Steve's word again, in perpetuity. In the times that it wasn't, it did very well. It did well for everyone involved. So I think that after all of this bloodshed, and my prediction is it'll be about a decade of bloodshed or more of just killing people because they're different or they don't, you will follow my version of Allah. No, dead. Because they can. And once that is come to an end, or the people, because there will always be more people than there are the occupiers or the bad guys. Go ahead, Mac. My favorite student in the class raised his hand.
Hey, it's me. Hi. I would like to share the first pillar of Islam.
Ah, yes, good one.
First of five. First one is Shahada, which is the declaration that there is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger.
Right.
Right. Now, to our Christian viewers, as you said, who might not know, they believe in Jesus Christ. He was just a cool prophet, right? They don't believe he was the son of God, but they believe that Muhammad is his messenger. Now, this is important, not the Muhammad is his messenger part for what we're talking about, but there is no God but God. Because like a lot of stories show in the Old Testament, if you don't believe in the right God, the high God, the God of gods, you are like your civilization is usually pegged as an evil one who worships false gods, and especially if you're in that Middle Eastern area, as those stories were held, those cities are to be put to death, right? They're supposed to be conquered by the hand of God, which is his people. And that's why, like, that's the history and that's the reasoning behind what Christy just said, as you will believe in my version of Allah because their version of Allah is the only one. And anyone who doesn't believe in the correct one believes in a false one. And what is usually the false God? Christy, can you answer that? I put Christy on the spot. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm muted and I was replying to our chat. So ask me one more time.
I was saying, okay, so for the example of you will believe in my Allah or my version of Allah, or you're dead, bang, right?
Right.
Because if you believe in the false God, what is the false God usually? What is a false God?
Any God that's not the God that they choose.
Yes, but they're usually
all of
evil.
them.
They're usually evil, right? So if you believe in a devil, then you can attribute any other god as just like a demonic figure that's an agent of Satan who's there to deceive. It's a deceiving god.
Right.
And if you perpetuate that belief in that version of a god or in a different god like Odin, that's just a deceiving thing, and you are damning souls, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a Jehovah's Witness tell me that Catholics and the Catholic Church itself is Satan. It's Satan's reign right now. It's Satan's 1,000 years. And Jesus did come back, but he's invisible. That's why we can't see him.
God damn it. Anyway.
Yeah. But so, yeah, same thing. You know, they.
Yeah. But they take it so seriously. These are religious extremists, right? And they take Sharia law very, very seriously, right? And like every villain sees themselves as a hero. Most, anyways. Is that fair enough to say, Christy? Every villain sees themselves as a hero, like they're doing good, because they're doing God's work. As far as
insane ones, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like Joker, he's doing things because he's trying to fix the city. But there are other ones who know that they're evil and are.
Yeah, Joker was like the one villain that like was the worst one to use as the example. Lex Luthor thinks he's
yes.
thinks that basically gods like to step on ants, right? And he's the man who's going to step up to Superman, the god, and put him in his place and be the hero among men and win worship, because if a man can stop a god, then he
Right.
is therefore worthy of worship. And he is a hero. But yeah, it's when you're dealing with these kinds of religious extremist groups,
Fanatics.
well, not just fanatics, like extremist fanatics, right?
Yeah.
Like it's worth going into why they're doing it. Partly because they want their land, right? A lot of times it is connected to religious reasoning, but their laws are completely with religious reasoning, and their laws are so harsh. Like you said, that woman was just flogged the other day.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was for Saudi Arabia, it would have been worse. And this is why, as the atheist community, we do need to be worried about this. We do want to intervene in a way. But as leftists, we don't want to do it in a war way, right? As anti-war people, humanists, we don't want to go kill a bunch of killers.
Right. To me, it's the same logic as when I see a mom in a grocery store, a Target, a Walmart, the mall, doesn't matter, grabbing her 4 or 5-year-old by the arm and smacking him while he's running in a circle, smacking him in a circle. Stop hitting your brother. You're teaching your child that when you're upset to hit, and now you're yelling at him and hitting him. Like, so we are telling them, stop treating your people this way or we will bomb you. It's the same logic, just on a more maniacal way. I do think that we need to do it with education. That's why they're so terrified of education.
Yeah. And it's circular because this is what we were talking about with martyrs, right? We see them as the bad guys. We bomb them, like say the F away from our World Trade Centers. You guys are monsters. We'll kill you and your families and everyone you love. Oh, look, they killed my family. They're monsters. And then it continues. It just continues, right?
And why wouldn't you want this nation out of your nation when they're there killing your families who had nothing to do with why we're there? We're there because of the Twin Towers. And they're like, you guys are idiots. Seriously. I just, to walk outside and see the bomb, pieces of the bomb that took out the building that your family lived in, and you're one of the only survivors, and it says made in the USA on it, or Raytheon or Boeing. It's hard not to have that. Even if you were like, they're here for the right reasons, they're keeping women safe, they're making sure education, that starts adding up over 20 years. And then children who were born after the war started know nothing but this. They don't know the good or how bad it was before. They just know that it's bad now. And it's easy to radicalize young kids when you show them these bombs, and then Abu Ghraib, the guy standing there covered, being electrocuted, sicking dogs on them, making them eat pork or not anything at all. These are just waterboarding. Under the Geneva Convention, we're doing war crime after war crime after war crime, and it's all been proven. Of course, they don't want us there anymore, and we should leave. So my prediction, the end
religious freedom.
Yeah, and religious freedom. The end of my prediction is, after all of this bloodshed, all of this internal fighting of who will get what, and all that dumb stuff that happens in countries that are developing, something, I hope, will be different. I think that once the whole nation realizes we're fighting each other, we don't really have a boogeyman. We're fighting over whose religion is right. And they have educated people there now, people who have been educated in other countries, including the US, and have gone back and can say, why can't we have multi-religions and accept everyone? And I do, God, maybe I'm naive, but I do think that good will win out. It took 20 years for us to realize that we are never going to win this war. We lost. So it's going to take a long time for this nation to, I mean, the first sign of the Taliban, the army we trained for 20 years, set their guns down and either joined them or fled. So
If that doesn't tell you
not
we've got a
our
failure.
problem. It's they have to do it. And as a humanist, that fucking sucks. It sucks because I want to help. Okay, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to say what needs to happen. And I have been signing everything that I can. I've written letters, emails. I mean, it is America, France, UK, and Australia, mainly, other countries as well, who were involved in this war in Afghanistan. It is our responsibility to take in as many Afghanis as effing possible, to give them the life that they deserve because of what's going to happen. I mean, women aren't even seen in the last few weeks. There's no women because they're too scared to come out. So I think that it's our responsibility. And if over these next 10, 15 years of civil war, I do not want our government, and I really think it's going to happen, to be selling weapons to anybody in Afghanistan, especially 2 sides or 3 sides. I want that done. I want them to figure it out on their own and come up with a constitution, because the last time they were left alone, they came up with a constitution, guys. Look it up, read about it, be about it. They are just like us. They want peace. It's the radicals that do not. And think about January 6th here. Those are our radicals. If someone occupied our nation, those radicals would have such ease at gaining more radicals. I mean, it would just be so easy. And then we would have what? Even more radicals. And then when elections came, who are people going to vote for when they're scared? The most radical, the most dictatorial, the one who says, I will take them all out with a bomb. And we have the kind of bombs that would just take out Afghanistan. That's how you get that. We know that. We did that to them. For what? I don't know. What resources? We've spent more money than any resources we'll ever get. I really don't know what we've been doing there. This story, I'm so glad I didn't cry, because there's nothing good about this war. Nothing got accomplished except for 20 years of semi peace and security for women, and a hope in young girls' minds that they could have a career and wouldn't have to be married off. I'm sure there's much more too. Music. They were allowed music, guys. Think about that. They're not allowed music anymore. Weddings, no music, no dancing. Dancing is not allowed anymore. And as much as I think we should go in there and teach them how to not be that way with like a movie named Footloose, that's never going to work, because they think that that's from the devil. So Mac and I agree, we need to stay out of it. And you can say what you want, and I will too. Biden is not the best president. He is not even a good guy. He wrote the 95 crime bill. I think that he's an old guy who is racist, but knows better than to let it show. He knows how to be presentable. He's politicked his whole life. However, on this, he is going to be known, just like Gerald Ford, as the guy who ended a 20-year war. And it's going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I hope none of my predictions come true. I hope unicorns fly in and mermaids start swimming out of the sea and they have their head coverings on so that they're accepted, and then they take them off, and then all the women. Yeah, okay. Let's just talk about this funny fish story. If you don't have anything else to add.
I did just want to caveat because I thought it was good, because I do like sharing comic book quotes for policy purposes. I agree that Christy is right. These people, including the Taliban, and at first I wasn't going to say that, but including the Taliban, they just want peace. They're people like us. They want peace. Some people want peace through understanding, and some people want, I'm going to quote, V for Vendetta, but they want it through unity and likeness and strength through unity, unity through faith. One's more authoritarian, one's more liberal, right? And that's where it always boils down to. Do you want to have peace through force, or do you want to have peace through, I get you, you do you, just don't hurt me and my, right? That all said, this is not a difficult topic, I don't think. But maybe you do, and that's fine. I think
I do.
I think there is a lot of gray area.
A lot.
Yeah. Hey, and your hair looks great. But your I think it just boils down to, like, should we be there or not? And no, it isn't. Like, I mean, it's a messy situation. It's not a difficult one. We know what to do. It just fucking sucks to do it.
And we know what to do, but the people that are there don't know what to do. And the people who are in charge know what they want to do, but it's not good for anyone except for them.
Yeah.
But
So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed our jolly topic. And now we're going to close out with a wonderful beta fish story.
Yes. Okay. So we had two cats, a cat named Bob Marley Santiago, which Isabel named her cat. That was his full name. She called him Bob Marley Santiago, not Bob Marley, but the whole thing every time. That was one first name. She was two. She loved Bob Marley. It was adorable. And we picked up two kittens that day. Well, Jordan's named her cat Angelo. She called him Angel. And they were wonderful animals. Well, we also had already had a beta fish. They are solitude lives, as most people know. They like to live in like a bowl, and they're beautiful, flowy feathers, the purples, the blacks. The cats would just stare at this. Go ahead.
They're actually all alpha fish. No.
Oh, yeah. They will kill anything you put in there. They don't like other fish. I don't think they realize that they are fish. So
they think they're sharks.
They are definitely little mini sharks. Well, Jordan was 6 years old, maybe almost 6, since Isabel was almost 2. Anyway, the cats had gotten a little bit dirty, and I needed to wash their paws off They didn't like it. They hated it. Cats don't like to get wet. But I used soap and water and then dried them off. Gave the kids a bath, went to bed. Everybody goes to bed. Now, if you're a parent and you wake up and it's completely silent in your house when you should hear something, something's up. And it's not a good up. It's like you need to be ready for anything. So I go out of my bedroom through the living room. I don't see Jordan or Isabel anywhere. Isabel's sleeping in her bed, I see, and I hear in the bathroom the water running, and Jordan, my oldest, saying, "It's okay, Sushi. You're such a good fish. You're such a good fish. You let me clean you," because he was being so good because he was dead. She had this fish in her hand. There were bubbles. The sink was so full of bubbles. She was using shampoo, baby shampoo, to give him a bath because he was dirty. So Sushi got a bath and we had to replace Sushi. I had to take Sushi to the doctor because she used the wrong soap or whatever we told her. You know, we had to go get a new Sushi. Yeah. And his name was Sushi, and she didn't know the difference till she was older, but she was no longer allowed to give fish or any animal a bath, especially fish. I told her that she's lucky she didn't kill Sushi because soap can kill them and being out of water will kill them. And she I almost killed my Sushi, and I'm like, you did kill your Sushi. Yeah. You totally killed you. I'm just looking at this fish. He's so bubbly and he's so dead. I'm like, oh my gosh. You did such a good job of cleaning your, what do you say? So Sushi was clean.
Much better than I would have. I would have just been so much more honest with my kid and been like, yeah.
This was when I was still a magical thinker, though. You know, your kids are young and you're not. I was, and I didn't want her to. She was a very emotional kid, and she would have just been devastated if she had killed her fish. Now, a couple years later, she heard me tell the story and was devastated that she killed her fish. Aww. And that I had lied to her, but yeah. So it is a funny story and a sad story. Sushi is the best name for a fish. Debate me.
Debate me, bro.
Yes, and I do want to say that I know I had a couple people ask, and I like to make the people happy. Okay, so it is 114 weeks since I have been. It looks blue right now underneath the light that I'm using, and I used a purple shampoo. But if I change my lighting,
oh wow,
it's just silver until down here where it's still brown. 114 weeks, and I guess that's about it, except for I love you guys, and sorry we have to talk about topics that I never want to talk. This topic is too much for me. There's no winning, there's no way out. We have to step back and let them let them figure it out, as much as it's gonna hurt, or then we should step in the Congo and Ivory Coast and all the places like Saudi Arabia where they're doing much worse.
Yeah.
So we can't just choose places we want to help or be in.
I mean, it kind of does, but
yes. Well, ask yourself, when's the last time we were in a defensive war where we were defending our country? And then ask yourself, who is threatening us that we need to defend ourselves from? So, yeah.
Christy, what do you say we there's a few things in politics that I think we definitely need to cover next week, like
Okay.
that healthcare report that just came out,
Yeah.
and also probably the reconciliation bill by the time we have another show. But we should do a religious topic next week. Like take a little break. We haven't done that in a while, and just like
Yes.
talk some.
I actually have somebody that would love to come on who is a believer.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. You have to tell me after the show.
I know. I told him that this is not a debate channel, that it would probably be on yours, but he's such a humanist. It might just work because it wouldn't be yelling or talking over each other.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But think about what religious topic you want to talk about, because I mean, or we can ask our beautiful chat what religious topic they would like to hear Mac and I attack, the Christy and Mac attack. Okay. Leah.
So,
yeah, and if there's any topics ever that you guys want to hear us talk about, yeah, and we're going to be wrapping it up here. So
leave a comment down below, or hit us up on Twitter. That's the best way to get a hold of us. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us the past almost 2 hours. It was a rough topic, but we love you guys. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. We'll see you again in 2 weeks, if not a little bit sooner, with a short video. And Christy?
Stay humanist, for God's sakes, and be kind to each other, even the people you don't know.